Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this Voice of Islam weekly podcast, subhanallah, or video cast, whatever you'd like to call it. But it's on education this week. And without further ado, I'm going to invite our guests because they're live from Africa and we don't want to lose them just in case, the things are a bit temperamental with the electricity and stuff and batteries. So Sheikh Bilal Phillips is one of our long-term friends and guests and mentors and teachers. And now he's, of course, he heads up the International Online University, formerly the Islamic University, basically Islamic Online University. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Great to see you, Sheikh Bilal. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My pleasure to be here.
MashaAllah. And today we're going to be talking about an issue which is incredibly important. That's why I brought Sheikh Bilal on this week to talk about it. This is the education show. And of course, the education show is about trying to get our children to understand the deen and ourselves and so on and so forth. But this week, the focus is about successfully raising Muslim children, especially in the West here. And the West has infected the whole world with its presence, its secular democracy and the thought processes and so on and so forth. So Sheikh Bilal is going to go through the 7 habits of successfully raising Muslim children, which he actually did a number of years ago. I think it was about more than 10 years ago in the UK. I invited you to give that a series of lectures and a tour. It was highly successful. Everybody loved it. So I thought, let's bring it back. Old is gold. Sheikh Bilal.
Okay.
What about, do you want to go through the first point?
Yeah, we'll take it point by point, inshallah.
Yeah.
Actually, before we go into the points, or the habits that parents need to develop, we should be clear about basic concepts with regards to raising children, right? Yeah. The fundamental goal of raising Muslim children should be to raise them righteously. It's not just raising them, because they could be raised in all kinds of ways, but it's to raise them righteously. And we should have this mindset that raising righteous Muslim children is ibadah. It's worship in and of itself. That's how parents worship with their children. With the raising of their children, that whole process is a process of ibadah. So when we put it in that way, then it means, just as with the ibadah, we have things which nullify the ibadah, things which makes the ibadah better, and preparations and things like this that we have of all the different acts of ibadah, whether it is salah, it is zakah, it is fasting, it is hajj. All of these acts of ibadah, there are always rules and principles governing it. So in the same way, raising Muslim children, if we think of it in terms of ibadah, then we should be conscious of rules and guidelines and strategies, and we should have proper understanding. It shouldn't be something we just tumble into. Nobody really told us what to do, when to do, how to do, where to do. It just it's whatever happens, and we learn as we go. We mess up with the first child, and the second child we make it a little better. Then the third child, maybe by the fourth kid, we have perfected what we need to do. It shouldn't be like that. We should be clear from the very beginning and provide and have all the necessary support strategies around ourselves to ensure that we raise righteous Muslim children. In general, Parents should have high goals and expectations for their children, which basically everybody has. That's like a given. However, for most people, their high expectations for their children are focused on the dunya, worldly success, such as medical degree, engineering degree, law degree. These are, from an academic and vocational perspective, they are skills which are needed by the Muslim community, and individuals use it to make a good life for themselves, etc. However, worldly goals should not take precedence over the primary goal. The primary goal in the life of a Muslim is what? It's paradise. That's what the goal is. So parents should desire for themselves and for their children, their high expectations should be getting to paradise, getting our kids to paradise, and in the process of getting them to paradise, we get ourselves to paradise. So this we should keep as our guiding point always. Is this going to help us to get to paradise, or is it not? And we can say in general that raising a righteous child is a way of ensuring that the child gets to paradise. And the Prophet ﷺ himself, he praised the righteously raised child and promised him or her paradise in a very famous hadith, which is also about 7. The 7 who will be shaded by Allah in the shade of His throne on the day when there will be no shade besides His shade. Who are they? There are 7. The first is a just ruler, Imamun Adl. But the second is Shabun Nasha'a fi ibadatillah, a youth who grows up worshipping Allah. Being under the shade of Allah's throne means you are among those who are going to paradise. That's what that means. So that child who is raised worshipping Allah, not that they are raised, they're astray, as most of us, we end up going astray in the process of growing up. And then later on in our late 20s, early 30s, we start to mature and realize that, we were off the path, we need to get back on the path. It's good to get back, alhamdulillah, but it would be far better if we never left. The first habit that we need to develop is taqwa. Taqwa. Okay, the first habit, taqwa, this is not for developing in the child. Yes, we want taqwa to be developed because there is no paradise without taqwa. There's no way to paradise. But the parents, they should have taqwa. Because the first question we should ask is, when should Islamic upbringing begin? When should we start this process? There's an anecdotal story of a student who once asked his Shaykh about raising his child. His child was only 1 year old at the time. So he asked the Shaykh, what should I do about, to raise my child properly? He said, the Shaykh told him, you have already missed the boat. What? He said, yeah, you have already missed the boat. Islamic upbringing should start before the child is born. That's the bottom line. It should start before the child. How? How can it start before the child is born? It is the right of children that their parents be righteous. And we all know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, men and women are married for 4 reasons: their wealth, their family status, their beauty, and what? Their piety. And he instructed that we marry the pious for a blessed marriage. That blessed marriage will produce blessed offspring. So this is the beginning point. This is where the taqwa comes in. Parents desiring to raise righteous children should themselves be righteous. That's the bottom line. That's common sense. They have to work on themselves and their relationship with Allah. They need to have knowledge of the deen. They need to have proper Islamic character, and so on and so forth. So this habit, actually, taqwa, is not the habit of example. We're going to deal with that later. This is the habit of barakah, the blessing, to get Allah's blessing. If people are themselves righteous, Allah will protect their children in this life. This is among the fruits of taqwa. We all know the famous story in Surah Al-Kahf about Musa and Khidr. When Khidr explained that he rebuilt the wall because Allah wanted him to protect a treasure left for 2 orphans that was beneath the wall. He said, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, and their father was a righteous man. Because the father was righteous, Allah protected his children. So parents must be sure that their own aqidah is correct, that they have a close relationship with Allah. They must put their aqidah into practice. Because we all say, yeah, I believe in Allah, one God, and I only worship Him. But in day-to-day life, it's not visible. It's only in the masjid. It's only in Ramadan, on Eid, etc. Most Muslims know that Allah is Ar-Razzaq, one of His names, the provider. So they should seek their provisions through halal sources and leave the outcome to Allah. However, most people today, their focus is on the livelihood, just getting that livelihood by any means necessary. And they will put their children and their religion at loss in order to get the rizq, even though it's already written. So many Muslims end up in riba, or they migrate to non-Muslim countries and try to raise their children there, because in those non-Muslim countries, they pay you not to work. Right? You'll hear people talk about, in the UK, in Norway, and Canada, they pay you not to work. That's Jannah. In the third world, where the rest of us are, you don't work, you don't live. You die, you starve. You better be working till they put you in the grave. But there, it's Jannah. So people are going there at all costs, and the children become lost. They're horror stories. You go to the imams of the masjids in the West, and they will tell you no end of horror stories. Stories that make your skin crawl. You cringe when you hear it. Oof, a'udhu billah. Is that happening? But that's the bottom line. But Allah told us, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will make a way out for him. Don't put your deen and your children in danger. Throw them into destruction with your own hands for the sake of the dunya. So we need to beware. As parents, we need to be on the right track if we are to raise righteous children. It means that we practice the deen in its completeness. Parents should also keep away from sins. And remember that the ends do not justify the means. The ends are usually not what you expected. And among the advice which was given with regards to this is to beware of the insignificant sins. إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحَقَّرَاتِ الذُّنُوبِ. Beware of the scorned sins. They are like a people who camp in the bottom of a valley, so the Prophet ﷺ said. And one comes with a twig, another one brings a twig from another place, another one brings a twig, till they make a bonfire and bake their bread. Indeed, as he said, scorned sins, whenever they are adopted, they destroy those who do them. It's only a little sin. It's a minor sin. You know? Inshallah, Allah is Ghafoor Rahim. He'll forgive us. What do you think about that?
Sheikh Bilal?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just writing it down as a point because it's something which is absolutely the way Shaitan has interacted with the Muslim community at the moment, particularly in the West, and those bringing their kids up in places of extreme danger like in the West. We see that slowly but surely he's ebbing away at them, at their Islamic consciousness, and stopping them from doing those minor good deeds as well. The small righteous good deeds. And then from there, Shaitan is then making them unaware of those small deeds, those small sins. And yeah, Sheikh, I totally agree. And that is this is like going back in the day, isn't it? I mean, we used to have lectures like this on a daily basis in the masajid in the West. Do you remember those times? And now, Sheikh Bilal, you can't find those programs. The Islamic programs, where are they? Where are the scholars sitting with the forget the children, the parents, So your parents are in massive danger from committing minor sins and just thinking it's irrelevant. And it's very, very dangerous.
It's easy to become numbed. In the non-Muslim society, you become numbed because you see corruption around you. I remember I used to see some of the brothers who from the East, from the Muslim world, who would come to give talks, and they would be shocked. They walk the streets, what? You guys are dealing with this every day? It's just, the corruption and the fitna and the facade and, it's just, and so you become so numb to it, you don't even realize it's happening. You say, oh, does that bother you?
You become numb, Sheikh, and some of the things we're seeing now, and Mohammad Thompson would know that as well, living in Auckland. But we are desensitized and against these minor sins and even the major sins. I mean, we're having discussions now online about okay, it's fine to have a dog in your house now. It's fine to do piercing of the face. Tattooing is okay. These are things which are now becoming normal. We've got these Instagram warriors out there, mother and father going out. Woman is heavily made up, okay? And the husband is flirting and dancing with her. And this apparently is the new dawah. This is the new dawah. So these are the parents of those children. What do you expect of those children? What are the children going to be like? Now, honestly, I've been invited on a few shows and I had to decline because I was so shocked. You know, I'm not Mr. Pious, #1 great Muslim myself, but the thing is, when I look at this, I think, wow, let me just draw a line. Just draw the line in the sand quick before it disappears. Just remind myself. It really, really is it's shocking times. So yeah, staying away from the minors. That's kind of like the first point wrapped up, Sheikh Bilal. Having taqwa, having the parents maintaining their Islamic credentials and connection or connectivity with the Creator, and staying away from the minor sins.
Yeah, so the second habit, you know, I mean, this, as we said, the process of raising those righteous children had to begin even before the child comes. So we said first habit was you have to have righteous people in the beginning. I mean, these are the people that are going to care and make sure that the children are raised in a righteous way. And Allah will give His barakah. The second habit is dua. I mean, of course, this is part of the righteous way. You know, because once a righteous husband has found a righteous wife, they're going to make dua to Allah to grant them righteous children. Children who will have the wisdom to obey and worship Him, and hope, between fear and hope. So it is the right, one thing we should keep in mind, it is the right of children, Muslim children, that their parents pray for them. Why? Why is it so important? Because dua, we all know, is the only thing that can change qadr. And when we look into the Quran, we find Allah constantly mentioning the righteous praying for their offspring. Allah describes Ibadur Rahman. We all know Ibadur Rahman in Surah Al-Furqan. The true worshippers of the Most Merciful. He describes them as making the dua, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. O our Lord, grant us spouses and children who bring happiness to our eyes. They translate it sometimes as coolness to our eyes, but in English, you know, what does coolness to your eye actually mean? Anyway, but it's happiness. That when you look at them, you know, you feel happy. Your eyes are pleased in seeing them. So that was the way of the righteous, as Allah described them, and that was the way of the prophets. You find, for example, in Surah Al Imran, Prophet Zakaria, he's praying, Rabbi habli min ladunka dhurriyatan tayyibatan innaka sami'ud du'a. Oh my Lord, grant me a good offspring from yourself. You are indeed the all-hearer of prayers. And when Allah gave him Yahya, gave Prophet Zakaria Yahya, Allah described Yahya how? وَحَنَانًا مِنْ لَدُنَّا وَزَكَاةً وَكَانَ تَقِيًّا. I made him, Allah said, I made him compassionate, pure from sin, and he was righteous and dutiful to his parents. And he was neither arrogant nor disobedient. This is the benefit of the dua. This is the barakah of the dua. So sincere dua must be made from the bottom of our hearts, with a sense of certainty that it will be answered. Because Prophet ﷺ said, Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. Call on Allah being certain that your prayers will be answered. We don't call on Allah with, oh, maybe He will, maybe He won't, I don't know really. No. We have to have real belief that Allah will answer these prayers. If we have that sincere, then Allah's promise is true. So, not only will the sincere dua be accepted from the righteous, but dua in general, if people are not good, are not doing what is pleasing to Allah, then the du'as are not going to be accepted. Abu Hurairah quoted the Prophet ﷺ as saying, "O people, indeed Allah is good and pure, and He only accepts what is good and pure." Ya ayyuhar rusul. Sorry, the Prophet ﷺ then quoted from Surah Al-Mu'minun, "Ya ayyuhar rusulu, kulu min at-tayyibati wa a'malu salihan, inni bima ta'maluna alim." O messengers, eat from the good things and do righteous deeds. Indeed, I am well acquainted with whatever you do. Because as the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah commanded the believers to do what He commanded the messengers to do. And then He went on to say, "O you who believe, eat and do good things that I've provided for you." Now, the bottom line is that he went on then to explain about a man on a long journey whose hair was disheveled and dusty, raising up his hands to the sky, calling on Allah, saying, "Oh my Lord, oh my Lord." But his place of eating was haram. His place of drinking was haram. His clothing was haram, and he was fed with haram. How could his prayers be answered as a result of that? That was the Prophet ﷺ's statement. So, the dua. Included in that is giving your child a good name. A name which will remind the child of good, has a good meaning. Those who had that name before were righteous people who you can speak about, explain to the child. Don't call your child, Rocky, any other kind of negative names with no meaning or crazy sounding or whatever. No. Different because you want a different name. No, you want a name which the child will be proud of. And the Prophet ﷺ had said, "Name your children well, because they'll be called by those names on the Day of Judgment." And in terms of dua, there's another very important point, and that is, before having sexual relations with one's wife, dua should be made to protect the offspring from satanic influences. Allahumma jannibna shaitan wa jannibi shaitan ma razaqtana. Oh Allah, keep shaitan away from us and from what you grant us. So this should be a norm, regular. We're trying to have children. You have children by having sexual relations. So, but the key is that, not that it's not a matter of enjoyment, etc., but you have to think in terms of the consequence. Thank Allah in this way. Ask Allah to protect. So what do you think, Yusuf?
Well, Sheikh Bilal, of course, the dua issue is something which, again, I was talking to a couple of Talib al-Ilm the other day, and we were talking about the dua that we actually do in front of the children to get the children used to that type of communication as well. And that's what I've been doing a lot recently with my younger one, my two that I've got left here. The others have escaped the roost and got married and stuff. So, and I noticed that has a positive impact, Sheikh. So yes, dua is something which is the forgotten weapon of the believer, as we understand it, the way it's described. And it's the sincerity behind it, praying in the last third of the night or getting up before Fajr and crying to Allah for your children and for their well-being, and of course for your well-being, because your children's well-being is your well-being as well, like you've explained, and as it's clearly described in the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran. So I see that this element is communication between the parent and the child is paramount, especially when they understand you're making dua for them. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Mohammad Thompson wants to say something.
No, I'm going to move on here because
your battery,
battery down to 19, so it's dropping faster than we expected.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the third habit, right, is having a sound disciplinary system, right, to discipline your kids. It's not just letting the kids do anything they want to do. I mean, some parents are just like, the kids, they'll learn. It's okay. They're small. No, discipline needs to be there. Islam is a religion of discipline. What is fasting about but discipline? What's 5 times daily prayer about but discipline? What's Hajj about but discipline? Discipline is critical in the life of the believer. So we have to provide that for the children from the earliest ages that we can, that it's appropriate. But when we talk about discipline, it should be discipline according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And what did Anas say about the Prophet ﷺ's discipline? He never hit me for anything, at any time. He never hit me. So one basic principle we have to reintroduce, important for raising righteous children, is to avoid hitting as much as possible, especially out of anger. People can't control the temper. You allow the kid to do it until you finally reach the end, and bam, you crash, you explode, and you're hurting them. And this goes all the way to our Quran schools, our madrasas. They're known for the stick. And you try to tell these Quran teachers, please, don't hit the kids. Prophet ﷺ, how are you going to teach Quran without hitting? You tell me. They just reject this idea. You cannot teach the Quran without hitting. And I remember before when I was trying to promote this idea and bring it into madrasas, talking, because there were people visiting me. I'm a graduate from Medina University, Shaykh Bilal and so on, so they're willing. But when I say no hitting, look at me. What world are you in? Where did you get this idea from? Tell us one country in the world where Quran is taught without hitting. And at that time, I didn't know any. It turns out there are many, actually, Muslim countries where they are following this principle. In Malaysia, you can't hit. In Maldives, you can't hit. Alhamdulillah, there are countries that are raising Qur'an and coming to, with the qira'at and everything, no hitting. But for the majority, 90%, 80% of the Muslim world, you can only teach by hitting. That's it. It's easy, it's quick. What do you do instead? What do you, for children, we use other methods. We take away their favorite toys, put them in timeout, you put them back in the bedroom, stay in the room. You can't come down and play with the others, whatever. So deprivation, you deprive them of certain things. You don't have to hit, just deprive. And eventually they know. If they're going to misbehave, you tell them, you want to go back to the bedroom? Or you want to go back to your room? They have their own room, whatever. Then we have also come from the other side, what they call positive reinforcement. So you try to reinforce good behavior. Whenever you catch them doing a good thing, they did some good things, then you praise them. You hug them. You know, give them physical attention, and, you know, so they get the idea. The more I do this, the more I get hugs, the more I get, you know, support, I get, you know, candy or get whatever. So this is called positive reinforcement. Of course, in the Quran school, what? Positive reinforcement. What planet are you on? That's their attitude, you know. But the point is that if they have a pattern of bad behavior, you know, like lying or not sharing with their siblings, fighting with the siblings, not listening when you tell them, then what you do is you praise the opposite behavior. So whenever they tell the truth, you make a big thing of it. Whenever, you know, they are kind to their siblings, you make a big thing. That's very nice, you know, it's very good, you know, you're a good boy, you know, good girl, whatever. So this is what they call positive reinforcement. You also can do things like behavioral charts. You know, you make a chart on the wall. Every time the kid does a good thing, you make a tick, or you put a star, or you put something. And if you get so many stars, then you get to go to the park, you get to go to this, you get to do this, or whatever. There's, you know, reward. You know, but something they can see, behavioral charts, they can see it and say, okay, I don't have enough ticks to do this week. I need to do more good. So it helps to motivate them. And then you need to be consistent. That's a very, very important point in terms of discipline. You need to be consistent. You can't just, as I mentioned in the beginning, just, you know, do whatever you're going to do. It's the hitting, and we said no more hitting. But you do whatever you're going to do just when you reach your wit's end. You know, they've annoyed you enough, that up, you know. Parents are, you know, moms are famous for this because they're busy doing other things, and the kid is okay, just carrying on till finally, you know, no, don't hit them like, you know, this. I mean, there may be sometimes you may have to hit, you know, and of course, you know, in the West, hitting, you know, you better do it behind closed doors and make nobody know about it, because, you know, you will end up in jail. You know, the children will be taken away from you and all this. So there's no hitting. But the reality is that the point is that there may be a time the kid is too young. He's putting his finger in the socket. You know, you can't deprive him of anything. He's too young to understand this. But if you just give him a little thing on his hand, oh, okay. That, you know, that speaks, but you don't have to graduate from that now to, you know, getting the belt out and whacking them, and no. You know, but there may be certain circumstances where that is the appropriate action, most effective, because the child can't understand anything else. So, but the point is that you should be consistent. You know, you're going to use the timeout, use it consistently. Don't use it some days and don't do it some other days, and so on and so. Or you tell them they're grounded, they can't go out to the park and go and play with it. You do it some days and they do the same thing later on, then you let them go. No, you have to be consistent, because, you know, this is the Pavlov system, right? You keep doing the same thing, you know, then the kid learns and it becomes automatic. So you have to be consistent, and you have to understand the age groups that you're dealing with, because for many parents, the first time they're in parenthood and everything, and the kid starts acting this way or that way, the other way, they think, Muslims, jinn, they're possessed, you know, get the qari, get the Shaykh Saab, you know, come read over my kid, man, he's just going crazy. You know, there are stages in the child's development. You know, it's known, what they call the terrible twos. It's known across the planet. The kids at the age of 2, around 2, before and after, they're rebellious. It's just part of them developing their character. They're rebellious. They say no. They're learning this So that's the norm. It's not a jinn, you know. In the age of 3, they love to play a lot. Age of 4, they ask many questions and they want answers. Age of 5, they love to imitate and to copy. Age of 6, they like to stand out and be noticed. You know, people see them. These are stages. Child psychologists will tell you, yeah, these are stages that the children go through. You need to know them. You need to be aware of them. So you don't think that, you know, the kids are going crazy, you know, and bring in the Qari. I mean, it's not bad to have, you know, Quran read over the kids anyway. You should do that, and it's good. It's part of our sunnah. But don't misunderstand natural changes in their psychological development and blame it on the jinn. Okay, so let's move on then to the 4th habit. That 4th habit is education. What we can say about education is that it is the right for Muslim children that they be educated Islamically. Educated Islamically. We should build an understanding in the children from the earliest ages of connection with Allah. Aqidah, which is number 1 in Islam. It's La ilaha illallah. So we try to instill in them a love of Allah and a fear of Allah from the earliest ages. Talk to them about hell and heaven. You know, of course, some people say, hey, no, it's not good to, you know, scare the kids. And, you know, you don't have to go into, you know, the details of, you know, your skin will be burnt off and, okay, you know, but you said this is not a good place. You know, if you want to avoid this, you know, this is the hell. We are trying to get to paradise. You know, what is paradise? All the good things, and we stress more so on that than the hell part. But if you don't know what is the opposite, then the child is not discouraged from doing the opposite. So it's important for us to instill in them a love of the Prophet ﷺ and give them, you know, formal lessons in Aqidah and akhlaq, you know, manners, Islamic manners, behavior, morality, you know. So we should start them early with the prayer. I mean, they'll start on their own. It's very common for children to imitate their parents and start praying, but we need to connect them. This prayer is not just a physical altar, but connect them with Allah, that this is for Allah, not just to show off to your parents, you know. So very, very important for us to educate the children Islamically. And that's why, you know, I've spent a lot of time trying to promote the idea of Islamization of education or integration of education. So if children are raised with the secular systems that are in place today all around the world, developed in the secular West, but has expanded to all around the world now, standard textbooks teaching the same things, etc., where there's no room for Allah, there's no room for Islam, you know. The children, how are we going to expect the children to grow up with any kind of a consciousness? We can say, okay, well, we're teaching them at home, but they spend more time in school. And for sure, the parents are going to have the least influence. They'll be overcome. The children will say, but my teacher said, you know, even when you as a parent try to tell them, but my teacher said, you know. So very important that your children go to Islamic schools. Schools where they'll teach modern science, etc., modern knowledge, along with Islamic knowledge. And best is when it is integrated. If not, then you have to work at home. You have to make up that difference. So when the children are learning mathematics, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and they have to learn this 2, you tell them, okay, listen, in the morning, when we pray Fajr, we pray 2 rak'ah of Sunnah. And then we pray 2 rak'ah of Fard. They know that. So how many rak'ah did you make? 4. Okay, you've just connected them. It's as easy as that. That whatever they're learning, try to give them connections with Islam in one way or another. The 5th habit is to be the best example. To be the best example to your children. They should see Islam in you. That's what we said in the very beginning, that a righteous husband, righteous wife will produce righteous children, blessed by Allah. And from this perspective, children imitate their parents. If a mother is modest, shy, wears hijab, the daughters will be that way. If the mother is gentle, the children will be gentle. If the children see the mother exert herself to worship Allah, they will want to copy her. If she yells and screams and hits, they will do the same. If she controls her anger, so will the children. If parents, especially the mother, are not affectionate, not kind. I have some people say, in our family, nobody says they love each other. You never heard dad say to mom, I love you. Or dad or mom say to the kids, we love you. It's not said. It's just not a part of culture. Hey, no, this is not Islamic. This is not Islamic. That love should be expressed. The children should hear it from their parents, and they should share it amongst themselves, that sense of love in word and in deed. So we need to be the best example to our children. If we want them to be righteous, then we need to be righteous. And we have to be very careful that we don't function according to the principle that some parents will tell, do as I say, not as I do. Because of course, you will tell them, don't do this, and then they see you doing it, you ask them, why? Do as I say, not as I do. There's reasons for why I do what I do. But you do what I tell you. But this is not the nature of kids. So if the mothers lie, fathers lie, so will the children. Oftentimes parents inadvertently teach their children how to lie. For example, if somebody calls who you don't want to speak with, they call on the phone, your mobile, whatever. You tell the kids, tell them I'm not here. Or the mother may tell the children to hide certain things from the father. These create bad character in the children. We cannot compromise on this. We have to be the best example. Whenever we have to break these rules in a way, because necessity requires it, we do it, hidden, in private, not in front of our children. So, same thing with mom and dad. We will argue. We will have disagreements, but don't do it in front of the children. Don't get into, fights, screaming, shouting, throwing things, and because that's what you're going to produce. So, character, moral behavior, manners. This is the deen. Prophet ﷺ said, I was only sent to perfect for you the highest of moral character traits. This is what Islam is all about. So, very important that the parents should want their children to know real Islam. which might seem strange due to the many non-Islamic influences in the outer world. So they should want to be the best influence in their children's lives. And they have to demonstrate, go out of their way to counter what's happening outside the home, especially in the West and things like this. They have to plan, strategize, find ways, educate. They have to educate themselves, take a course in, child psychology, etc., to help, because especially in Western circumstances, in secular circumstances, we need all the information we can get to help us to be the best example for our children. The sixth habit is to provide a positive environment. The environment in which the child lives, the household environment. It should be peaceful. Husband and wife should not show conflict in front of the children. They should not be, as we said, in terms of example. They should see their mother as an obedient wife. They should see their father as a supportive, who's their member. He's not insulting the mother in front of them, etc. Otherwise, they grow up insulting their parents. So the environment of the home, in terms of what we have on the walls, what we have in terms of magazines, what is on the TV, what is on the internet, access to the internet, all of this is important. We don't just let the kids go anywhere on the internet. You have no idea what they're doing, what they've gotten to, where they've been to. Oof, very dangerous now. In the past, it was, much less. Now it's just, there's a world of corruption, etc. on the internet now. For us, this is very, very serious. We have to control it. Don't use it to keep them busy so you can carry on and do what you have to do. We should have Quran and Hadith mentioned in the family, read, or on Fridays, or in the evening before going to bed. This element should be there with explanation, not just reading just for barakah, but reading to help build the Islamic knowledge within the home. So the home itself should be an environment that encourages Islam in practice. And we should remove all of the negative influences from the reach of the children. Some things is maybe better not to have it. Something like television. If you know you don't have a means to keep it under control, better not to have it. So we have to be careful to remove from our homes whatever can misguide the children, if we can control it. And the seventh habit, so I got the sign that the battery is almost gone, is what is called attachment parenting from the very beginning. Attachment parenting. That you should build a bond between yourself and the child, a bond of love. This is the right of the child, that they should feel this bonding. For the baby in the earliest stages, obviously, it's going to be breastfeeding. And what they say is, it should be breastfeeding on demand. Have the child sleep with you in the bed. Don't put the child in a crib. Physical contact. Very, very important. You can see it in the little kids that are growing up. When you're not there, just physically not there, they're upset, they're uncomfortable. You want them to build that link, so the child feels very close. And they've shown scientifically that the first 5 years are the most crucial in forming the future personality of the child. Most problems as teens come from early childhood. The need to love, where kids are denied love. That love helps to stabilize their character. 5 years, fundamental. The first 5 years are fundamental in building future character. So it's important to keep the children as close to you as possible. Eliminate as many outside influence as possible during this period. And if you can, homeschool the children. Don't be in a rush to throw them in the creche. Get them out of the way so you can get to, no. Those early ages, you see, look at before schooling used to start around 7. That's it. That's when kids went to school. Then there was preschool. And then then they became creche. So the child is 3 years old, they're taking him out of the home. This is critical. Children's character are built in this period. Don't expect, nurseries and that to provide what you would for your child. You have to give them that love in those early years. Very, very, very important. They call it attachment parenting. To keep that bond strong, a bond of gentleness, of love, of trust, expectations fulfilled, that builds a character that fits right into the Islamic mold. So, the practices of keeping children away from the parents, so the parents can have private time and this kind of thing, to an extreme where we just give kids, the mobiles and whatever else, and TV and internet, and keep them busy. Just keep them busy. So you can, no. It's better to keep them close. Better for us to sacrifice from our time, our energy, etc., to build that bond. That child will love you till you die. So that's basically the 7th point. And inshallah, my battery has about 10% left.
Everything dies, even the battery, Shaykh. Yeah. So, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Bilal, for the 7 habits. Let's just summarize them then in a very, very quick, succinct way so that our audience, especially those that have been on all the way through, would get the benefit. Now, I'm always trying to recommend people, write it down like the old school days now. We don't write it down. Write down the points now. Get a pen, get some paper, and start implementing it in your household straight away. We're not doing this just for likes or sharing or rubbish like that. We're doing this because we want to benefit the ummah out there. And we want to go back to what changed the early generations and how they brought up their kids. And this is what the Sheikh is talking about. Sheikh, do you want to just summarize very briefly, in your own words, the 7 points, in quick succession?
If you are making quick notes, maybe you're in the best position. I've done enough talking now. I can leave it to you.
Okay.
Point 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then you can interrupt when I get things slightly, Okay, so the first one is taqwa. The first habit of successfully raising Muslim children, creating an environment of taqwa for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this means that the parents have to have taqwa and attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is dua to make lots of dua for your children, with sincerity. And that sincere dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect those children with that sincere dua. And I've always liked to make dua in front of my children. I think that's a great benefit. The third is a disciplinary system in the household to bring up children so that, that they understand that there is a purpose and there's a methodology for bringing children up. That is really important. For example, and Shaykh mentioned Anas ibn Malik never got hit, and I believe he never got shouted at by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not just hit, he just don't do this was never something which was in the narrative of the Prophet Mohammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the consistency of messaging, which is where a lot of us are falling down massively. The fourth is
can I just jump in? One other, I just took a few notes as well. So he also mentioned, you said consistency already, so I had that. Reward the good. Reward the good, and sort of shun away from when they're not so good, just sort of like, just put more emphasis on the good.
Don't just whack them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, don't whack them. And okay, fine. So this is the point about the fourth point is education. The education system has to be right. It's a right of the child to get Islamic education, to understand why they're born, why they were created, and what's going to happen when they die. Basic stuff. And the non-Muslim or sort of state school system should be avoided as much as possible. This was a point. Is there any points you got from point 4, Mohammad?
Yeah, it's Islamic integration of education. Islamic integration of education.
Yes.
So I believe Sheikh Bilal's International Online University is doing that. So they've changed the name, and now it's integrating Islamic parts into the education. So that way people can relate to it as when they're learning all the sciences and chemistry and physics and all that sort of thing, and the Islamic point of view from it. Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Be the best examples is the fifth. Is love and be the best example. What is the title for the fifth, Sheikh?
Best example.
Best example. Okay,
that's what it was. Yeah. Am I right, Sheikh? What was best example? Be
the best example. Okay.
Frozen?
I think it might have frozen out. But anyway, be the best example. Express this. Do as I do, not as I say. The Sheikh mentioned. Do as I do, not as I say. Unfortunately, the Shaykh has had to quickly leave because the battery died. Express it and share it. Love in the household, and be the best possible character. The best influence and the best character, so that they listen to what you're saying. Subhanallah, that was point 5. Point 6 was building a positive environment, peaceful environment. No conflict. The parents shouldn't show the conflict and the arguments they're having. It should not be in that regard.
Remove negative influences.
Remove
negative. Which could be television. It could be distractions. It could be things going on that areas where they're getting involved in.
And also to mention Quran and Hadith on a daily basis with understanding and meaning. And then he mentioned about the fact that there's huge corruption in the world today, and you have to keep those kids away from that, so that builds and reinforces that positive environment in the house. Any more points? Remove negative influences. Remove the negative influences. Look, if you can't control the internet, you have to kind of move on and get rid of it. Just replace it with something which is better, which is the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Remove that negative thing with a positive thing, which is good, mashallah. Also, any more points?
No, I have no more on that.
Okay.
No.
The final point was attachment parenting. Attachment parenting. So build an incredible bond of love between you and the children. The Shaykh mentioned between you and the children, a bond of love, and it is their right to have this bond of love in the household. he mentioned on this point, the Sheikh mentioned that we should try to homeschool our children where possible. Don't just send them out to the madaris and madrasas and expect that those children should just suddenly, just like miraculously evolve into these wonderful Muslim children. And
first 5 years fundamental in creating good character.
Yes,
is what he mentioned as well. Some say it could go to the first 7 years, but it's at least getting those earliest years. You need to start from, you don't start at 10 and 12 and 15 and say, oh, now I'm going to teach you how to pray, and then think they haven't seen anything from all of the beginning 15 years or so. The other one, just love, is talking about strong bond, love, trust, and just respecting them as being human beings.
Absolutely. So I think that's that. Then the Sheikh's battery died, and then we were left just to just go over those 7 points.
Well, he's just testing us. He's probably listening now and just seeing whether we were actually really listening to what he was saying and taking notes. So hopefully he can give us a pass rate or something on whether we took enough notes and remembered everything. Inshallah.
Exactly. Attachment parenting through Islamic advice. Abdul Rauf is mentioning that. There's loads and loads of hadith, loads and loads of comments. We can't possibly keep up with them. But hopefully the Sheikh will have a long life, and not like the battery.
Exactly.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give Shaykh Bilal a long life and enable him to be able to continue giving advice to the ummah all around the world. You've seen basically, brothers and sisters, just to let you know, when we were learning from Shaykh Bilal back in the days when we first embraced Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled us and gave us the ability to unite our hearts with Shaykh Bilal and the Quran and Hadith. It was quite an amazing, astounding thing that we had this school. Well, basically, I bought the Sheikh, and he did a tour of the UK, and he went through these 7 habits of parenting in around 7 to 8 cities. My wife is doing the preparation in the kitchen, so she's making lots of noise. So please forgive me if this is the case. We don't have big palaces. We just have very, very small. Oh, somebody thinks you're very funny, Brother Thompson, by the way.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I mean, you don't look that funny to me.
Maybe I'm just a joke.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, really, really allow our brothers and sisters who are listening to this series of lectures from Shaykh Bilal. Hopefully, we're going to try and get him on next week to go through these points a little bit more, inshallah, bi-ithni Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good news is Shaykh Bilal has created students on his page that really are note takers. You see, so everybody's going through all the different 7 points and just paraphrasing all of what Shaykh has said. So that's really amazing, amazing, amazing. Look, it's all about trying to get as much beneficial knowledge out there as possible. Brother Thompson looks calm. Are you calm, brother?
Alhamdulillah. I'm in New Zealand. We're very calm over here.
Absolutely. Did you benefit from that? I mean, we're almost beyond the age. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old. Your children are much older.
They're in their 30s. They're in their 30s. So, Shaykh Bilal's back.
He's back.
He's come to grade us. He's probably come to say whether we got it right. And all the other people watching, they're all still putting all the habits down. Alhamdulillah, it's good. So everyone's taking notes.
So unfortunately, a lot of people are complaining about their messages not being read. I'm really sorry. I sincerely ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to open them up and read them next week, maybe. If Shaykh Bilal can come back, we can go through all this. Shaykh Bilal, assalamu alaikum. You're back.
Salam. From the iPhone.
Yeah.
Switch between the devices.
Again. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. The joys of living in Africa with uncertain power.
Yeah. The uncertainties.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Well,
we just take all these for granted.
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions, Sheikh Bilal, by the way. Loads and loads of questions. We're probably going to have to answer them on another show unless you have got... I've tried to pick up some of the questions. Well, everybody's welcoming you back. And they said, Jazakumullah khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. We've got people from Spain. We've got Philippines. We've got every part of the world.
Everything has been covered, yes.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I know. I saw the chat. There was it showed people come, who were sending messages and that's from everywhere. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And Sheikh, just to let you know, everybody had written down the 7 points. A lot of people have written down the 7 points, and they're putting them on the message there. So they've picked up. All they have to do is implement the 7 points now. We've got Australia, by the way, on. We've got anybody else want to mention where they're from? Hopefully parents get the correct their attachment styles. Oh, that's gone. That point's gone. Yeah, Sheikh. Do you want to just
quick and fast? It's too fast to see them all.
Too fast. Do you want to just say anything to wind up the program? Just to give a small nasiha to our brothers and sisters, or you just want to interact with the comments? South Africa, Bangladesh, Nigeria, USA, all of them are on, watching, listening. The whole world is listening.
Dubai, UK. Yeah.
Well, I think I've said plenty. It's the points are clear, and the number 7 is not a written in stone Quranic revelation. The Prophet ﷺ used 7 for the people who would be shaded by Allah's throne. And we pray that these 7 habits will help us to put our children under the shade of Allah's throne, and that we be among them or be with them, inshallah, in Jannah. And the key, as we said in the very beginning, just to repeat the point of ibadah, that raising children Islamically, this is an act of ibadah. And we have to look at it that way. If we're able to have that kind of a focus and realize that everything, all these points that we mentioned and discussed and all that, all of it goes back to perfecting the ibadah of raising Muslim children, righteous Muslim children. So, inshallah, as you said, next week, if you want to gather up all the questions, I don't know if they're still existent, you can go back and sift through them and pull out and then put them in different categories, organize them, etc. And we can try to give them some response for it, inshallah. Because of course, I'm giving general guidelines, and there's always a lot of specifics and specific circumstances, etc., which need advice and direction, inshallah.
Apparently, Christopher's asking you, Bilal Phillips is a Muslim. I don't know if that's a question or a statement.
No, I think it was answering another. No, I was answering another question where it says is he Salafi.
Oh, he's a Muslim. A believer. Hopefully, we all live our lives as believers, and we die as believers. And this is what we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it happen.
Of course, it is striving to follow the way of the Salaf, the righteous, our righteous predecessors, the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu his righteous caliphs, and the righteous generations that preceded us. That this is the correct understanding of what Islam is, and of course that's what I will follow. I may not be carrying a badge on my shoulder or on my chest saying I'm a Salafi, and I may not be beating that drum all the time. As some people, that's what they feel is we got to beat it into people's heads, So that's the route that they have taken. That's fine. I prefer to, get the message across through authentic content. I mean, the Islamic online, it is understanding of Islam and integrating that understanding with modern areas of study and research and knowledge, which is necessary for developing our Muslim communities globally.
Yeah, inshallah. I think somebody is mentioning, don't forget to bring your cell phone charger, but the problem is Sheikh Bilal is in a part of the world that lacks electricity a lot of the time, so that is not an issue for him. That is maybe the authorities that need to look out and try and build better infrastructure.
Here's the cell phone power bank. I have it,
Alhamdulillah.
But it has its limitations. When the electricity is gone for a whole day, the power bank doesn't last for the whole day.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
I think, definitely, Sheikh. What we're going to do, we're going to try and go through some of these questions and then put them in different categories, and then next week we can come on and we can deal with those questions and those comments.
I think there's going to be more than 1 week, because there's over 1,000 people responding, 1,000 bits of notes in that. So I think there's a lot of good ones. They want some more in depth on parenting and things like that. So alhamdulillah. I think there'll be plenty of time to continue it, expand on it, just from this the 7 habits that could go on for months, just on expanding on those and going in depth on some of the questions that have been put forward. So alhamdulillah.
What was the point, wasn't it? Mohammad Thompson is to try and bring back this whole knowledge, all this knowledge, which is unfortunately been forgotten, and our relationship with the scholars and the talib al-ilm has been lessened and weakened, and now we're just saying, oh, what should we do with the kids today? How should we bring the kids up? Oh, just send them to the local school. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to support us. Let's have tawakkul. Let's just forget about doing the actions of a Muslim and a good Muslim parent. And then what's happened now is our children are just spending all their time online. And we mentioned, Sheikh Bilal, just something which I really want to pull out of the air from this discussion so far. That subhanallah, our children are being influenced now by YouTubers. It's not television. Television is actually a minor. In fact, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day, and I was saying, let's bring back television. It's good. Because what we've got as an alternative is an absolute disaster. It's YouTubers shouting insanity at our children, profanities and insanities at our children, and this is the new normal. Wow. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah, it's difficult.
We have to create our own bubbles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's what this platform is for, to help put a balance, inshallah.
Bring back television. All is forgiven, Sheikh. Eh?
Yeah. I think the genie's out. The genie's out. It's a bit hard to put it back.
Yeah. No, but certainly next week we're going to try and organize these questions into categories, brothers and sisters. And I know Sheikh Bilal's been on for over an hour, and then he went off for a bit. But it was an hour and 15 minutes that we've been talking on this show. But I guess we're going to have to wind up the show and bring it back next week at the same time, 10 o'clock UK time, whatever time that is, your time. We're going to get back on, and inshallah, bi-idhni Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going to go through some of these points from the 7 points, go through some of the questions and observations and comments, and bring out the best ones. Okay, so mashallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you brothers and sisters and allow you to bring up your children as good Muslims and Muslimah. Sheikh Bilal, thank you very much. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you and continue to guide you and benefit you and put you, in a great state of deen. Oh, yep. Unfortunately, he's gone.
Again.
Well, he's gone again.
And thank you for all the viewers and the comments. Inshallah, as Brother Yusuf said, we couldn't answer them tonight because they're coming thick and fast. So inshallah, we're going to put them together and put it for future programs, inshallah, starting from next week. Sheikh's back again. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, just wind up. Just say salam, Shaykh, and we'll come on next week, inshallah.
All right. Barakallahu fikum. Shukran for having me on board with you. And we hope that the message reached as many as Allah will them to reach, and we ask Allah to put it in a scale of good deeds, inshallah. And we ask Allah to guide and protect all of those who have attended the program, protect them from the COVID physical aspects of dangers in the life today, and from the spiritual challenges and psychological challenges. We ask Allah to protect the Ummah and to bring it back to its glory once again with our efforts, by His mercy, inshallah.
Ameen.
Barakallahu fikum. Allah accept from all of us.
Shaykh and Mohammad Thompson and all of the audience, and join us for another show tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, whatever time that is in your district. We're going to be talking about the fallout from the Christchurch terrorist attack. We're going to be having some really interesting guests on there from New Zealand, from all around the world as well, from the UK. Sheikh Wasim Kempson should be on. Of course, I'll be here. Mohammad Thompson will be here. And we'll have some people that were survivors and people that were impacted by that terrible terrorist incident which killed 51 of our brothers and sisters nearly 18 months ago. So join us there, inshallah. And also next week, with Sheikh Bilal, will continue this incredible discussion about 7 habits of successfully raising Muslim parents. The parents and the kids as well. The kids and the parents, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fi aman